Hello, this is Simracing Corner. Beta 4 of Automobilista 2 has dropped earlier today, a day or two later than expected, but that's fine, it's here. I've spent probably about a couple of hours in it, just checking things out. I also have, for the first time, got some patch notes. So thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for posting those. And I have put them in the description below the video if you're interested. The patch was pretty hefty. It was 1.2 gigabytes, which is a lot of data. Last week's patch was about 600 meg, and that included some the trucks and some carts, and obviously other bits and pieces as well, some changes. This week's patch, as in new content, there's only one added track, and that's the 1972 version of Imola. Other than that, there's no new physical content uh, in that dimension, but there are some changes. So we're going to discuss those partly when I'm on track as well, because I'll be able to demonstrate it. But one thing I will show you is on here under the controls, the force feedback. One thing I mentioned I made a video on a while back was low forced boost, and I recommended you turned it off and didn't use that at all. And it's actually okay to use now. In fact, I need to use it now, and again I'll discuss that when we're on track. But the force feedback has been revised quite significantly. It still feels similar, but they have made some changes, and it's in the patch notes if you want to read what the changes are. But it has made some differences to the feel of the force feedback, and in different ways. For one of the things is they got rid of before it had Project Cars 2 force feedback menus in here, where it had immersive and what was the other one? Raw and something else, didn't they? And custom. So now it has default and custom only. So custom is when you can edit. There's a text file you can edit and basically make lots of changes to the force feedback settings, which a lot of people did with Project Cars 2. There are some custom settings for those which improve the force feedback. I don't think they're needed for Automobilista 2 because the force feedback is very good. So we just got default now, and let me just see if I can find anything that's worth mentioning from that. Okay, so on the top line of the force feedback change list, it says updated pneumatic trail calculation, now equal to what we had in AMS1, resulting in higher overall rack force and self-aligning torque. Well, that's something which is going to help people, actually be useful for anyone who was having difficulty in the formula cars and also the karts, where you had to really up the gain quite a lot to make the wheel feel weighty enough. But on all other cars you could run it around, at least for me I was running around 30% on here, and it was absolutely fine. But for the open wheelers, pretty much every Formula car I was putting it in the region of like 40, 42 sort of thing range, because the wheel just felt too light. So that change has really made a difference, where I can now run everything around 30 and it all feels about right. However, it has made something a bit odd with when I'm going around slow corners. I found the wheel was it's fine when I was going around fast corners or just going in a straight line fast. The wheel had a lot of weight to it, so you had a good sense that the wheel, the tires, the car was under stress, and it's hard to move the tires, right? But when I was going around slow corners, it would feel really light. The wheel was just freewheeling it. I really felt very little, so I found it quite difficult to understand what my grip was. And there's a tendency to just put the throttle down a little bit more because the wheel feels very light. So you want to push a bit harder to feel the weight build up on the wheel, because you think you have a bit more leeway in your speed going around corners. And what happened was I was spinning out a lot, and that was with the new force feedback that they delivered in Beta 4. Beta 3, I didn't have a problem with that. It felt fine throughout, and all I did was increase the gain on the open wheeler cars, like I said. So what I found now is low forced boost actually has a benefit where when you're going around those just slow corners where the wheel does feel quite light, using low force boost increases the weight of the wheel during those maneuvers, and it means there's a larger band of force feedback range when you're going around this corner. So you just feel it. You get more of a range of understanding what's going on, and it has helped me tremendously by adding 25. I tried up to 50, tried about 30, 20, 25. So I'm happy with that at the moment. So I'm going to stick with that. Maybe I will tweak that again. But bear in mind, this is obviously a direct drive wheel, so these are very um, specific to me. But that low force boost now has a real reason to exist, and I'm finding it to be very useful. Very much like in Automobilista 1, it had a use, and now it does in Automobilista 2. They've completely revised the FX on here, that setting, and then I'll read that out, what they said here. Adjusted FX FFB effects no longer adds fake road noise after porting over AMS1 surface noise code. FX now adds engine vibration, modelled from crankshaft angular rotation and tyre scrub. Okay, so I've noticed that has made a difference as well. Before, the road effects you're getting, you go in a straight line, and the wheel would you just feel like the odd kind of tweak, just like a little bump going through the wheel, and it didn't ever feel quite natural because I'm guessing it's picking up minor bumps and maybe cracks in the road, but it was just like the odd kind of pulse of kind of a twitch. Never felt right. Now it feels quite different. So if you weren't using FX, you might want to try us out. I wouldn't put it up to 100. Maybe try about 50 to 30 maybe, or 30 to 50. That's the right way around, isn't it? And one thing that's quite interesting about that effect is there's a slight vibration coming from the wheel now, very much like if you're in a real car and the ambient vibration from the car, just travels through the car. You feel it through the seat, don't you? That kind of just that hum of vibration coming from the engine, and you feel it with the wheel constantly. Although the wheel doesn't move, if you just leave it, you don't see it moving, but you just feel it coming through. So that's a nice effect, and I guess very much only going to be suitable for direct drive wheel owners. I'm not sure if you're going to feel that at all with a belt-driven wheel, but with mine, it gives a nice effect. So I'm using some of that. And I'm finding that I can just use gain now on 30 for everything, and it seems about right. May tweak it here and there, but so far with my testing over a couple of hours, that seems about right to me, especially now I'm using low force boost. So that's good. So everything has consistency now, whether it's a standard car, just a road car, or one of the I can't think of the names of the cars now, but cars. Any of the vehicles now has consistency by using gain of 30 for the most part that I can tell, so I'm happy for that because it means I don't have to mess around with any of those settings and go onto the track and then keep on adjusting it until it feels right, which is a bit annoying because you have to quit the track. You can't do it in a game menu just by pressing escape. You have to leave the track for that, so that's a bit of a nuisance. They've made a bunch of changes to the physics, which I guess are subtle but are noticeable. The AI has been improved, and that's something I do notice. And I'll take you to a track where I particularly noticed that one in a video I recently put out, and that has improved massively. There's a couple of things that haven't improved massively though. Well, one thing. So let me find the car. It was one of the prototypes. So it was the Metro Moro, the AJR, and I raced at Abara. Okay, and you can see one thing I've reduced the opponent numbers to 15. Normally when I race I just rack it up to the highest number possible, which I'm happy to do for most tracks is okay, and most cars. But I have found when I have well, 30 cars effectively, including me, so 29 opponents. They do have a massive smash, so I'll show you that anyway. I also like the opponent aggression at 100. That makes no difference to them having pile-ups. It's to do with the amount of opponents on track. So I'll show you this, and without a doubt, they will just have a big old smash, even though it's a very open start line, and for quite some time as well. They still have a big old pile-up, which is a bit annoying. It looks quite interesting, but it does spoil the race immediately. So if all goes well, this will happen on this. Obviously, all goes well in a bad way, because that's what I'm expecting. I prefer to use high opponent aggression, because it means they're trying to, they're moving around, they're a bit more active, rather than me being able to go straight down the middle and get about 10 places. So you can see they have a big off here, and half, basically, what was that? Half the field is just basically just wipes themselves out. So if we change that to fewer cars on track, it should work out better. So let's go to 15. I haven't worked out what is the magic number, but I just halved it. I went to 15 and it seemed to be quite good, and I had a decent race of them. So I'll show you this working a lot better this time. So yeah, it really does depend on the car. You may have to just adjust it manually, just find out what is the right level for just a particular vehicle occasionally. So they should behave a lot better this time. Although there's still potential, they may have a little bit of an off. It shouldn't be quite as bad as it was before. That's what I'm expecting anyway. But yeah, let's have a look how they get around this corner. Okay, this or maybe, well, okay, that wasn't very good, and obviously look at this. Okay, let's try it again, because that just makes it sound like I was completely wrong. But after I have done some tests, and I found out they were better behaved by having fewer AI. But it's not a universal problem. It's only on some cars that you may struggle with. I found it happens to the karts, and by reducing the number of the karts as well, that makes a difference. So let's see how they get on here. So okay, we had one off, we had two off, but the rest are okay. So yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, just reduce the number of AI cars, and they just behave a lot better. The other thing which I noticed, and this is why I picked this particular car and track combination, was in my race which I published the other day. I can't remember exactly which day it was, but within the last week. These AI cars were incredibly quick on these corners, on these particular corners, on these S's, and I could not keep up with them. They were just absolutely flying. No matter what I did, I just could not keep up with them, including no matter what level of AI I set them to. They just caned it, and I just could not find the same level of grip. But now they're definitely more consistent. I didn't do a really good job there because I could tell I took those corners a bit too wide. But the other thing that was a problem was they were really slow on the start finish. Just a whole lot, right down to when it gets to the bottom corner. They're just incredibly slow, and I used to make a huge amount of progress just catching up with them, or just flying ahead of them. And you can see I'm not having that advantage now. It's very much we're driving the same car, so that's made a difference. The AI has improved, and I certainly noticed the same problem in some other cars as well, where the cars have a strange inconsistency, almost like you're driving a different vehicle to them. But now it's absolutely fine. So I'm going to let him get ahead, and I'll talk about the low force boost on how it's made a difference. So particularly on these corners where it's sort of slow, with no low force boost, I found when I was going around these corners, the wheel was just really just light. It was just nothing was happening, and it's really difficult for me to understand what was going on. By adding some low force boost, it makes these sort of corners. It adds a little bit more weight to the wheel, which is really helpful. So yeah, if you have a direct drive wheel and you weren't using low force boost and the force feedback suddenly feels a bit strange to you, just add some of that now, and it does make a big difference. It's got nice weight to it now. I got a good feeling of low speed grip, which is really important, because otherwise you're just putting the throttle down. You don't know where you are. So yeah, it's all good now. But yeah, initially when I first tried, I was really disappointed. I was just going off. I was skidding around corners because I had no idea of my of how much grip I had. But now it's got a nice weight to it, the sort of weights that I like. So that's good. Is there anything else I wanted to cover? Yeah, like I said, the AI is just a little bit seems to be more consistent. I don't know if they've, how many across the range of cars here, how much it's improved entirely, but I've noticed on that one, and that's why I specifically brought that one up, because it's a really massive improvement. The karts still have a problem with the rentals and these race ones. So the GX 390s, they're still super slow. They just clearly are not right. You put your foot down and they go at snail's pace. It's almost a joke. The shifter karts are good, and that one's okay as well. Also, the AI has improved here as well. That's one thing I have noticed. Again, I've had to reduce the amount of AI running on the track, and you get a better race, which is fair enough. I mean, you wouldn't want to have 30 karts on a small track like this, but running 15, it was very good, and I had a nice race with them. I will say though, I'm not completely convinced about the physics still. One thing about these karts is they're a bit too stable. They're quite hard to spin out. It doesn't quite feel like Automobilista 1 physics to me. So I figure they're going to be they need to do some fixes. See, the AI can still have the odd stumble, but they are definitely better behaved. And yeah, I raced them earlier today, and I had a decent race with them. They're keeping me honest. They especially after the first couple of laps, when the karts spread out a bit, I was having a decent go of it. Often, AI, when they're all cramped together, they are a bit too slow, aren't they? You can always find your ways past, can't you? It's a little bit too easy until after a couple of laps, and then you really understand how quick they really are. But you can see there, I just found it a bit too. It's far too stable. Karts like this should not be this easy to stay on the track when you lose it. I don't think it needs a massive tweak, but I do think they're slightly too forgiving. Obviously that was a bad move, but never mind. I guess I think that's a good demonstration of that. I should be spinning out much easier than that. They got a bit too much grip, so that needs to be looked at. Actually, one thing I did want to mention, which is good. So if I quit out of here, right, so my wheel is set to 540 degrees. You can see that's my soft stop that I've set in the wheel settings for the Bodner wheel here. Obviously outside of the game, the software that comes with the wheel itself. And you can see that I can push past it, but you can see it needs quite a lot of force, and that's the soft stops you can set. So that's 540. They've now added I can't even say the word, soft stops in the game. seemingly specifically for direct drive wheels. So that includes OSW, Simracing, Bodner, AccuForce and stuff like that. So if we go back into the car, you'll see this will change. So let me go to resume. And you can see it's got a soft stop here, which is what, 90 degrees. I can still push past it. It's not that difficult. And then if I go further, I can hit my one which I set in my wheel settings. But yeah, I'd probably like it a little bit stronger than that, to be fair. But it's still a definitive stop. But when I'm moving it fast, I can push past it. But I do get a sense that is obviously the end of the steering rack. And in all other cars as well, I've checked it out. It's different as well. So like in Formula cars, it's a bit more like that. So that's good. This way you know how far, obviously, what the steering is now by that. So that's cool. Do I have anything more to say? Well, not a lot really. Like I said, look at the patch notes, because in there you'll find lots of bits and pieces. There's a few bits where they've looked at things with liveries and other sort of things. Some of the graphics have been tweaked, stuff you wouldn't really notice. Some track physics have been tweaked, and bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, not a whole lot, but some nice changes. Hold on a sec. Before I go, let me show you this. It's easy to forget all these things when you're trying to record directly to a camera. Let me go to something slightly more complicated vehicle. That'll do. Yeah, I think the AI is also a little bit more behaved, where they don't smash you in the back as much. They don't drive into the back of you as much as they used to. So that's an improvement as well. I found in the Formula cars, they were a little bit too aggressive, and they were just, even in a straight line, they're just hitting the back of you, which was a bit of a problem. So that's improved. But we now have setups. So we have some quick setups, some basic stuff here you can mess around with, and also they have an advanced setup. I'm not sure if they're going to add more to this. I mean, you can see it looks sort of like what Automobilista had. Clearly a step down from Project Cars 2, which had, I don't know, it must have been like 50 settings, which was a mad amount of settings. But you can see it's all got the kind of pertinent things you need to look at. Yeah, weight biases. We don't have. What don't we have? We don't have toe-in angles, or we don't have. What don't we have? There's a lot of things not here, I guess. We can't change the suspension in any way. So yeah, there's a lot of things not here, and I think this is the just the initial deployment of changes to the car. I think there's no more things we can do here. So yeah, I think that'll be padded out in maybe beta 5 or the release. Beta 5, incidentally, is coming out on Monday. That's the plan. So that's not long between the releases, since they were week on week, and now they're looking to release beta 5 on Monday. I'm assuming that's going to include a bunch of car content. Stuff which has been missing. There used to be an Automobilista 1, which they're trying to get into this. And also on Monday there will be a dev update on the plans for the first release on Steam. So the main, the going gold and being sold on Steam for everyone else to buy. So come Monday we'll find out a bit more. I will run another video when beta 5 drops and just cover some basic things. I think this video went a bit long, sorry about that. I think I went on a bit too much about the force feedback at the beginning, but it's kind of important stuff, force feedback, important to me, so I did chat a bit long on that one. But yeah, there you go. So a few bits and pieces. go to the description, look at the change log. Like I said, I've noticed some things which have improved the game. Not everything is improved. Still some issues with AI when there's too many AI cars on track. But they certainly are a little bit better behaved, and each time they've released one of these betas, they're getting closer to to getting where they need to be. So that's good news. They are making good progress. They haven't obviously got long to get this game out, so they are making big strides each time. So that's good to see. And by version 1, I expect things to be not quite perfect, but to be in a really good state where I think everyone will be quite happy with it. And considering how quickly they are deploying updates, I figure anything that is still remaining after the deployment of version 1 will get quick updates, and will be quickly fixed to the point when everyone will be very happy, and then after that they'll tie down other little tweaks that they want to get the game into a particular state in, all the things they, how they envisage the game to be. So it's all looking good. And yeah, the thing is, all these, you can pretty much write off a lot of stuff you've seen from earlier betas. Each time they release a beta, things have just tightened up a bit. So yeah, be careful about watching really early content, especially on when beta 1 came out about 3 or 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I don't know anymore. But if you're watching any of those videos of people critiquing Automobilista 2, yeah, you want to look at more recent videos like this one. Look for ones that covered beta 3, because there's a lot of improvements there as well. So yeah, so be careful about what you're reading, what you're watching, because things have improved. So if you've seen some, a lot of negativity with some of the earlier betas, a lot of it was fair because it is just a beta. But they have made good progress with each deployment. The game is just tighter and tighter. It's a little bit better each time. So yeah, it's all looking good. I'll be back on I guess Monday if that beta comes out then, and I'll cover that in one of these drive and talk kind of mumbling messes of recordings. But yeah, I'll still got a few more cars I want to put on track and run in those 10-minute race videos that I've been smashing out. Still a bunch I haven't covered yet, but they are coming, and I should have them all done before the version 1 comes out, because I am firing through those quite rapidly. So keep watching out for those. Yeah, well, actually, have a good weekend. Let's end with that, and stay safe and stay healthy, and hopefully you're able to find food in shops and toilet paper, because I have to say, in Bristol, place is wiped out of food and toilet paper. And bread mainly. You can't find bread anywhere. It's like it doesn't exist. It's crazy times. But anyway, happy simming, and take care, and bye bye.